Well, good afternoon, Representatives, and welcome to the Slope Health Women's History webinar series. We're so glad that you took time to join us today. I know you have a hard stop at 12:30, so I don't want to waste time getting started. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Well, thanks, Robin. I'm really glad I'm getting the chance to join you too. I'm also really glad that you all are doing this to celebrate Women's History Month. And yeah, so I'll share a little bit about my background, and then I'm looking forward to us getting into kind of a conversation Q&A. But I should have said this. Hello, I'm Sharice Davids. I represent the Kansas 3rd Congressional District. I was elected in 2018, and so I'm like 10 years into my second term. No, I'm just kidding. It just feels like a long time. I'm sure you all are feeling that. I do want to just kind of send my, I don't even know what to call it, like my good vibes to you if I can, because I know that this last few years has been so hard. And I know you all are doing a lot of the work that is so necessary for our communities. So thank you all for the work that you're doing. So a little bit about me. My mom was in the Army when I was growing up. So I'm an Army brat. I am Ho-Chunk, which is a tribe in Wisconsin, but my mom retired from the Army while she was stationed at Fort Leavenworth. And so I graduated from Leavenworth High School, and we stuck around. And, you know, my mom raised my brothers and I have 2 little brothers by herself. And when I got done with high school, I was the first person in my family to go to college. But I'm a former first-generation college student because about 5 years ago, my mom got her bachelor's degree from UMKC. So, you know, I feel like I have a not uncommon journey. You know, I started off being raised by a single parent is not uncommon. Being a first-generation college student is not uncommon. I have an associate's degree from Johnson County Community College. I worked the whole time I was in school. I got my bachelor's degree at the University of Missouri in Kansas City. I don't know why I just said it like that, at UMKC. And, you know, and then I got to go to law school. And while I was in law school, I, for some reason, thought that I wanted to do mergers and acquisitions. So I got the chance to do that at one of the firms in KC. And but I also realized fairly quickly that that I was wrong. That wasn't the path for me. And I ended up doing community and economic development work with tribal communities, and even spent some time living on a reservation in South Dakota. And during that time, I realized none of us know how the federal government works. And I don't mean like tribal communities, I just kind of mean in general. And so it prompted me to apply to be a White House fellow. And I got the chance to spend a year in DC at the Department of Transportation as a White House fellow, and realized that I'm a born again transportation enthusiast. And then, yeah, and you know, I think that like, I'll stop there in terms of sharing kind of my like professional and educational experience, because I'm really interested in getting to our questions. But all of those things that I just described really informed so much when in 2018, when I ended up running and getting elected with what was the most diverse freshman class ever sent to Congress. And, you know, I was elected alongside my dear friend, Deb Holland, and she left me now. She's running the Department of Interior. It's fine. But you know, all of the experiences that I've had have made me appreciate so much the effort that so many people went to help us, like to help get me here so that I could, you know, advocate for the Kansas 3rd and serve in this capacity on behalf of the folks in the third district. And like, it is really an honor, and it feels almost like cheesy to say it that way, but it really, really is. And yeah, so would love to get to the questions. I know I already said that I was like really grateful for you guys, but you know, Swope Health is doing so much. You guys are doing so much to provide just like affordable and accessible healthcare for folks. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, speaking of experience, tell me who would you consider a female mentor in the United States Congress, and what advice did she give you?
I feel like there's been quite a few, and even though Deb Holland and I came in at the same time, she was, you know, I didn't do politics before I decided to run for Congress, which maybe is a whole nother story, but but I always say Deb, but I feel like I should. Secretary Holland was, she had been engaged in the political sphere. And so she was definitely a mentor and helped me get my sea legs out here. And then also, I will say, you know, Lisa Blunt Rochester, who is a rep from Delaware, she was literally a mentor of mine and sat down with me on multiple occasions to just help me understand how the place worked. And she's been in office for a few more terms than I have. So.
Okay. Okay. What do you consider your greatest challenge, and how did you overcome that?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think what's interesting is when I feel like when you're in the middle of challenges, it's like, you know that it's hard, but you don't realize what it means until later, if that makes sense. And so some of the things that I've realized, especially now that I'm in this position, because this is so different than what I ever would have thought of when I was younger about what I might be doing with my time and life. I think that getting through my associate's degree, that took me 4 years, and then another 4 years to get through my bachelor's degree, is one of those times where, not because it felt like something was stopping me, but because it felt like I didn't know what I should be doing. And then, but I was able to just like keep putting one foot in front of the next. And I think a lot of that comes from, you know, my mom is amazing. And, you know, just growing up, watching my mom as a single parent, raising 3 kids, putting one foot in front of the next and doing everything she could to make sure that, you know, that someone like me could be sitting in Washington, D.C. as a member of Congress is, I think, I don't know, hopefully that answered the question. Did that answer the question?
It did answer the question.
Okay.
Answer the question. I think, you know, sometimes you don't know that you're in the challenge when you're in the challenge. And yeah, reflecting, you figure out which ones are the greatest. It's a sort of,
yeah.
Look at it, sort of hindsight 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So next question, as a woman and a Democrat, how have you worked across party lines in Congress and in Kansas?
That's a good question. So, you know, when my mom was in the Army from before I was born until after I got out of high school. And I can't remember how old I was, but I think it was after I was already out of high school. And it was like close to the time she was about to retire. And she joked one time that she joined the Army and thought she would see the world. And we mostly saw Kansas and Missouri. She was a drill sergeant at Fort Leonard Wood, which is in kind of like South Central Missouri. She was out at Fort Riley. She was at Leavenworth. And I think that because so much of my formative time has been in places where where I've gotten used to, for good or bad, being the only person like me in the room, that I think it helped shape my approach to a lot of things, to showing up. I mean, I think that it's part of why I feel like I'm very pragmatic, like I think that showing up to conversations and trying to make sure that I'm not making assumptions ahead of time, trying to make sure that I'm actually listening to what folks are saying to me has helped in terms of just listening to what my colleagues who are on the other side of the aisle that I might wildly disagree sometimes on specific issue areas, but in places like I'm on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and we all need roads, we all need broadband, we all need to, improve our transit. We need to improve. There are so many different things that I really spend time listening to what my colleagues are saying, so that if they say something that I'm like, oh, we can work together on that, then I will approach my colleagues. And I'm also on the Small Business Committee, and even yesterday we had a hearing, and one of my colleagues, who for sure we disagree on a lot of different things, but we were sitting there agreeing about how we can help with some of our small business administration programs to make them more accessible. And we'll probably end up working on a few things because of that. So I think a lot of it has to do with trying to show up with open ears. And then, I try to do the bridge building when I can.
Understood. I mean, there's always some place there's a common ground.
Yeah.
So tell me, what keeps you grounded in this political environment?
My mom. Half of this time I was just going to get on here and talk about my mom. No, I mean, I do think that there's something to how often I come home and try to, be intentional about visiting with folks who are not, like, their whole day isn't wrapped up in, did this bill pass or did that bill pass, and what about the budget, and what about the omnibus, and all these types of things. I try to make sure that that I am at home as much as possible, and talking to people who are, like, literally, anytime people are willing to, like, sit down with me, invite me to tour their business or their organization, to me that feels like, I mean, folks can be doing anything with their time, and they're taking the time to help me understand better what is going on in the community. And I think that is what helps keep me focused on what are the things that I can be doing to help the folks in the Kansas 3rd and the state. And then, of course I work with Emmanuel Cleaver as much as possible, so that our regional, 1KC, that we can figure out ways to get resources back into the region. And we did that with the bipartisan infrastructure bill for sure.
Okay. What advice can you give to other women who want to pursue a career in public service?
I think, like, one of the things that I feel like one of the things that pops out in my head the most when you ask that question is that, if you look at my resume, sometimes I jokingly say it's so clear that I was planning to run for Congress, because it wasn't. I mean, I worked at Sonic for 5 years. I've done all the jobs. I mean, I was a banquet bartender. I've worked in a warehouse. I've been a delivery driver for pizza places. I've been a barista. I think that um, some of the skills that I have now in this job that are the most valuable come from those those positions that I had, because I feel like so much of public service is trying to figure out how can you be helpful.
Mhm.
And in some ways, I happen to have had a lot of training in customer service. So customer service is not exactly the same thing, but it kind of is. You know, there are things that you know, especially I think about our federal civil service folks, like people who like there are people who work for our government that literally could be doing so many other things, but they're really committed to, you know, a specific program, whether it's, you know, at the Department of Transportation, you know, the transit folks or the rail folks, or, you know, I mean, like all the different areas. And then our small business administration, like there are so many people whose careers are dedicated to public service, but aren't necessarily recognized as such. And I think that like putting all of that into one thing, it's like what can we bring to the table that is going to help serve other people? And I learned those skill sets being, you know, like being in the service industry. And then the second piece is, you know, following what it is that makes you like excited and jazzed, you know, and if it's infrastructure, which, you know, is clearly my thing, or if it's entrepreneurship, or if it's healthcare, I mean, you know, if it's like taking care of people, making people more comfortable, I think that like doing the thing that makes you excited, like figuring that out is like, that's at least the thing that has helped me the most.
I agree. Following that passion and learning what you love. And actually, this next question is sort of based on that. I can't take credit for it. I'll tell you a little bit how this next question came about. I know when you saw it, you probably were thinking, what? Every month we welcome new hires as a senior leadership team, and I have a great person who leads this. His name is Chris Williams. And last month which is actually March's orientation, we were stumped by this question that he threw out, which is always an icebreaker for the senior leadership team. We were asked if you had only 2 apps that you could keep on your phone, what 2 apps would you keep on your phone? It gives us a little bit of insight about who you are and what you love. So tell me, if you could only keep 2 apps on your phone, what 2 apps would you keep?
Well, for sure, the weather app.
Okay.
Right now I'm thinking about, I have one of my brothers. I called him one time and he was like, I don't even use that app. I was like, is that an app? So the phone app. And then if I can't keep the phone app, then probably the one with these rings, so I know how many steps I've taken.
Ah, okay.
That's if the phone app doesn't count as an app.
Okay. Okay.
So the weather,
I think
I gotta know what the weather is.
okay. So we're gonna go with the weather and the steps, because I think that the phone it's already a phone, so we don't use that. It's not an app.
That's my opinion. I'm gonna tell my brother you said it.
All right. Very very cool. All right, so I'm going to open the chat. We have a few things in the chat from our audience here. So let's see. I have a question about what's been your greatest joy in being in Congress?
I think the answer probably changes, not day to day, but I mean, recently, and by recently, I mean like probably over this last year, I have felt I don't even know how to describe it, but it's one of these things where I kind of can't believe that I get to be in Congress during this time in history, even though it's been very stressful and it's hard and it's hard. I mean, like this is a really hard time in history for our country, for the world, but I kind of can't believe I get to serve in Congress right now. And it feels important. And that is like, I don't know how to describe the like sense of like, it just feels really big. So that's the thing I'll say right now. Ask me next week. We'll see what happens.
All right. Another attendee says, Sharice, we're so proud of you. You're doing an awesome job representing the citizens of Kansas. Thank you for caring enough to show up. We love your mom stories. What does your mom think about politics?
One time when I was a kid, I asked my mom who she voted for president. And so in the Army, people just people don't talk about their like political views kind of like generally. I mean, I think close friends probably do, but like kind of generally. And I was like, Mommy, who did you vote for president? And she said, that's none of your business. And I was like, what? And she was like, I keep my politics personal or something. I don't remember what she said. And I was like, okay. So now that we're both adults, she was always an adult. She is more forthcoming with her thoughts and opinions about it with me. And she and I don't always agree on everything, but she cares a lot. Like, I think when I was younger, if someone would have asked me, I would have thought my mom wasn't, not that she doesn't care, but that she, like, I wouldn't have realized how interested and engaged she was on those things, on just like the full range of political things. And so I think she's like interested, engaged, all that. And also she's my mom. So, like I know that sometimes it's probably like hard for her to see what's going on and imagine her daughter being engaged in politics in this time. But she's also like very proud of me. I can feel it all the time. So.
How do you handle Congress people who seem to be more interested in making headlines than making legislation? And does that make it harder to stay on task? Also, I don't live in the Kansas 3rd, but my daughter does half the time. Thank you for all you do and all the other kids in Kansas.
Oh, thank you. That's interesting. So, I have a mixed martial arts background. And also I was like all into sports when I was growing up. So it probably impacts my mindset. I think that I don't remember how the question was phrased, but what other people are doing in terms of like how they decide to represent their districts and that sort of thing doesn't impact my ability to do my work. And I think it's partly because, it's not that I don't know what's going on. I know what's going on, but martial arts and what I'm doing now are actually like very similar in terms of like mentality and approach. Like if I spend as much of my time as possible trying to be the best representative I can be, then all of the other stuff will fall into place the way that it needs to, and I think that, I don't know, I think that, 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 I think that adhering to what my priorities are in terms of like, my top priority is how am I going to be the best representative for the district? Like that's the starting place. And then everything else after that is informed. And so like watching what other people are, doing in terms of how they conduct themselves. If it's not helpful for achieving those priorities, then it's just kind of, I'm like,
I understand that one. Another attendee says, in order to meet people where they are, you have to have walked a few feet in their shoes. If you experience everyday jobs, your experience with everyday jobs helps you to better understand the needs of everyday people. So thank you for that. Another question is, what influenced you to choose the Democratic Party?
When I got registered to vote when I was 18, I'm like pretty sure that when I was like I think I was at the DMV, and they asked, do you want to be a Democrat or Republican or that? And that's what was all they said. And I said, oh, do I have to pick one right now? And they said, no, you can do unaffiliated. And I was like, oh, then I'll do unaffiliated. And it's because I feel, and I actually think this is kind of like a very Kansas thing, is like my preference would be to look at the policy, to look at the, also I probably was kind of a nerdy 18-year-old, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to be like constrained in that way or something, also I'm 18, so who knows what I was thinking. But I think that over time, I have found that because of my lived experience and also what I've seen, and the direction of politics in general, that the values and the policy and those sorts of things of the Democratic Party are most aligned with the things that I am aligned with. And also, I'm sure this is because of my mom, I never have a problem saying, and it's also because I'm used to being the only person like me in the room for a good portion of my professional life. I also feel like I'm very well practiced at saying, actually, on this thing, we don't agree. And like, I'm, right there ready to like share my arguments, make my case for why I think things should be done a different way. And I feel like there's an openness that with my colleagues here, and that just feels like a good alignment and meeting of the minds.
All right. Well, we want to be respectful of your time. It's 12:30. In parting, I want to say that I know that you had an opportunity to meet with our CEO, Jaron Raven, this week.
Yeah.
And, if he didn't invite you to come see what we do, please come visit us.
I definitely want to.
Always open. We do great work. We have great teams here, and we're very proud of the communities that we serve and our patients and our teams here. And so the door's always open,
Yeah.
Bye. And so thank you so much for taking time out to meet with us today and to talk to us about your work and what you're doing and how you got to where you are. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. And I'll look forward to seeing you in person, because we did talk about me coming to visit. So
absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.